Hello and welcome to Sage's Tabletop Table Talks. I'm Sage, this is my new tabletop, and I'm going to talk to you about tabletop role-playing games. So I know I've made comments in the past about doing exclusive Dungeons & Dragons content, and I'm going to kind of break the rules some, because this will be, I don't want to say exclusive to D&D, but very much D&D centric. And one of the big reasons is because this is something I think Dungeons and Dragons has done right. And that is, we are going to talk about the schools of magic in D&D. D&D has 8, and I'll go through them as I rank them, because this is going to be one of the few times I do a ranked list. I'm not big on rankings, because every time I create a ranking, something comes up, some information comes up, and it causes me to kind of shift the ranking. And I'm not going to go through every single spell in every single source book to do my ranking. A lot of this ranking, it's a combination of usefulness and also just kind of how interesting the school is. Now a lot of games you see who have schools of magic, sometimes the schools of magic are a little too simplistic. It'll be like earth, air, fire, water magic. Or some just ranks by what class can cast it, which creates this space where you have a difficult time justifying cross-platform spells. You know, wizards and clerics both using bull strength as a spell. It can be done. You can classify it as both, but that is maybe one of the better ways of doing it. But I see a lot of games out there have too many. GURPS has too many. You have like, what are these? Well, it's earth, fire, air, water, healing, body alteration, telepathic spells, telekinetic spells. This spell deals with animals. This one deals with mythological animals. This one deals with giant animals. This one is space time magic, and you'll end up with these huge schools, like 50 schools of spells, each with like, let's say, 10 spells in them that all just kind of do the same thing. And there's a lot of repeat in Dungeons and Dragons, but within the schools, I think that there's some coolness. Well, I don't know. I like the way D&D has their spells organized. It could use a little work, but I think it's pretty solid. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rank the schools of spells, and I have little cards here I'm going to hold up that have the schools on them, instead of putting overlays on. And just for what it's worth, the big reason for that is I get like 6 hours a week that I can work on these kind of side projects. And I've got some projects I'm working on that do require a great deal of like editing and stuff. And these videos, these kind of vlogish style videos, I can put out, I spend, an hour recording them, little cuts here and there. But for the most part, these videos don't require much editing and allow me to keep content up while working on bigger and better projects. But yeah, so that's kind of why it's very lo-fi here in this series of videos. But yeah, I'm going to rank the schools of spells, and I will of course explain why each of them are ranked the way they're ranked. And at the bottom of the list, we have Necromancy. Why here at the bottom of the list? Necromancy can do a lot of things. It just can't do anything really good. So obviously the edgelords are going to get pissed off at this because my undead army. But your undead suck. Undead, considering the power level of the undead you can use, they suck. They're just not good. If you want an army, you're a conjurer. Conjuration is just so much better than necromancy when it comes to creating things. The other big thing necromancy has in it are like debuff spells, like with withering and idiocy. And the thing about that is, anytime you debuff a target, your debuffs have to be weighted higher than buffs. So let's say you have a spell that lowers the target's dexterity. So dexterity goes down, meaning their AC goes down, and if they're using a finesse weapon, their attack and damage go down. However, I can use a similar spell on a, let's say, rogue, who buff his dexterity, so his attack goes up at the same rate the opponent's AC went down in that previous example. So effectively even, do more damage, and yes, the debuff affects the enemy, meaning all of his stuff against all targets are affected. But that is the one payoff to debuffs. If I buff a target, sometimes that buff might last me 2-3 fights. If that guy I debuffed decides to try to fall away, and he runs, and then some minions come in to protect him, well, that buff I gave to my rogue is still on him. He still gets that. And the other big reason is saving throws. If you debuff that enemy, he gets a saving throw. He makes a saving throw. Well, guess what? You wasted your turn. Your turn is done, over. And now you have to wait till everybody else makes an action before you can affect the playing field again. That buff on that rogue, it's going to work. It's going to work 100% of the time. He's not going to fail a saving throw. You can make the argument of counterspelling that buff, but the enemy can try to counterspell your debuff too. So now you have that to deal with on possible counterspell on top of a possible successful saving throw. So yeah, you are guaranteed a battlefield outcome with a buff over a debuff. So yeah, Necromancy is a garbage. I've seen some D&D clone-ish type things put healing spells under Necromancy, and that would be a way to kind of make it slightly more useful. I think maybe counter. I wonder if counterspell is a what that is. I'm pretty sure it's probably evocation. Abjuration. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But I guess you can make it because it's like negative magic. But yeah, it's not very good. So the next two, they could get kind of... You could interchange these two that I'm about to talk about. And honestly, the reason the one is higher than the other is simply bias. But the next one I would go through is Illusion. Illusion has a lot of useful spells. Illusion has 2 useful spells. Change the way something looks, or make it look like there's something where there isn't. And that's it. That's all Illusion can do. It's just those 2. Invisibility is Illusion, so... And Invisibility is a fucking useful spell. It is extremely useful. Unfortunately, Invisibility is almost just a powered up version of a kind of alter self. But the problem with Illusion is it just doesn't do a whole lot. There's very little Illusion can do. There's no versatility. There's no breadth. No, it's 3 spells effectively. It's make something invisible, change the way something looks, make it look like something is there when there isn't. That's all. And so, while they're useful spells, all the schools of spells except for Necromancy are filled with useful spells. The problem is if you specialize in illusion magic, excuse me, if you specialize in illusion magic, that's it. That's all you do. Yeah, just there isn't a whole lot to do. I could see merging illusion and this next spell as a single kind of psionic-ish type school of magic. The next one is, and like I said, complete bias because this is my actual favorite type of wizard to play. diviners, divination. Um, and it's really for the same reason of illusion. It's got 3 really useful spells, and that's all it has is 3 useful spells. It doesn't do anything else. It's see what an object is, look someplace really far away, get a hint at the future, which as a DM is can be a narrative nightmare, that kind of future sense stuff. But divination as it is, just there's once again no real breadth of magic. And I love playing diviners. I even before in 3rd edition when you didn't have like school abilities like you do now. Because I get the diviner subclass for wizard in Dungeons and Dragons is crazy powerful, but I'm not reviewing subclasses. I'm reviewing schools of magic. So like I know a lot of people like pick diviner and then just don't really use make your one extra spell slot the one divination spell in that level that's good, and then focus on the other schools of magic, which the big ones we'll kind of get into later. But yeah, as much as I love divination spells, they are very useful, especially if you're playing a campaign that is not as combat oriented. Like my diviner in my one friend's game, the one I've mentioned before about the fallen paladin and going into hell. A number of those spells were fucking useful, and so like or none yeah, a number of those spells were like using detect scrying when we were trying to do like planning to make sure, because like a couple of times we seemed cut off at the past because we were fighting like very powerful divine beings. So I would use, when we were planning, use detect scrying, and then when the trigger went off that somebody was scrying, I would be able to make a hand signal and everyone would be quiet. And it would make it like, okay, we know that he knows that I'm spying on him, so they're being quiet. Like, it wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'm watching, and we'd be like, okay, we'll give him false information, because when we all went quiet and figured it out, he kind of knew what we were doing. But yeah, no, it was used, but that's really all it does is, it's like, okay, I need to find an object. Okay, we need to find someone, okay? I'm trying to spy on someone, but that's not it. So I could see divination and illusion kind of being put together in like a psionic school of magic. Honestly, necromancy I just get rid of and part it out to other schools of magic, personally. Also, necromancy is like the most stupid fucking edgelord school of magic. Like, it's the one that all the like guys who dress in black and think they're too cool for this shit want to use. But yeah, anyway. Next up, and this one was a little lower. I thought about if this was going to be below illusion and divination or above it. But I was looking at some of the spells, and it did have something in it that was really good. And it has some good spells. But the next one up is Evocation. The big problem with Evocation is a lot of its good spells are damage spells, Fireball and Lightning Bolt, and things like that. And doing damage is the least effective thing a spellcaster can do in combat, especially when the top 3 spell styles on here have spells that like just end fights. They're just fight enders. But Evocation does have healing with cure spells, which is nice. That's fantastic. Gotta check a spell real quick. But they have done so much they can to like power up the damage spells, because some of these damage spells do a lot of damage. But doing this damage will always be less than some of the other thing that wizards can do. And I'll get into them when I get into the higher ones. I just have to see this because Ah, yep, I thought so. I forgot one of the crazy powerful spells that you can use, and it's class I thought it was. But yeah, just most evocations, a lot of evocation spells are damage. I guess some of them now do healing, which is nice. So yeah. But anyway, after that, this might actually be a short video. I'm only 15 minutes in. But after that, above evocation, we have abjuration, which, ooh, I was questioning if it would be if it would be number 4 on the list of the ranked spells. But after seeing counterspell, I'm like, yeah, okay, abjuration. Abjuration has a lot of defensive spells, and defensive spells are extremely useful. At low level, spells like Shield and Mage Armor are incredibly useful. But you know, I've talked about this before, about damage types in Dungeons and Dragons, and how, man, I'm sorry, I've got a scratchy throat or something. I hope I'm not getting sick. But I've talked a lot before about how elemental damage types in Dungeons and Dragons are much more penalizing than they are helpful. And that's somewhat true of monsters. Another reason why evocation kind of falls down the list, because hitting a target with fire is just a much riskier and less effective move than hitting a target with a piece of metal. And abjuration absolutely can help players by, doing elemental resistant spells. So these enemies that are fire-based, hellfire-based, you can put up that, endure elements, resist elements, things like that to protect you. And that's also with it being counterspell, which is so useful and such an underused spell. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about abjuration. So I had these next 3 are all so useful, and I 2 and 3 I had thought a lot about, and I actually had this next school as the rank 2 in my list. But I had a discussion with my brother, and he convinced me to push 3 up 1 and this one down. But honestly, these top 3 could be very interchangeable. They are extremely useful and powerful tools to the DM. But anyway, the next one is enchantment. One of these things that make this so powerful. The spell Hold Person. Hold Monster. That's a fight-ending spell. Now, obviously, if you... It requires, because it is a targeted spell, you target an opponent, they get a saving throw against it. That sucks, sure. But Hold Person, Hold Monster are fight enders. Because if you can hold a target, your guys get free hits on that target. Your guys, they do the thing now where on a successful save the turn ends, but you get at least 1 turn, and your characters, every turn they fail, your characters just get to go apeshit on the target. They're pretty helpless. So some of the other things enchantment have, not just in combat, but they are any kind of encounter ender, because spells like Dominate and Friends, Charm Person, Charm Creature, they're all enchantment too. Like, you can use Enchantment School of Magic to just bypass social encounters as long as obviously there's things the DM can do to stop it other than saving throws. Like if you're at a party, it's not going to do you as much good, but like if you're trying to convince the guard to let you through, you can charm him and give yourself a huge advantage on any attempt you want to try to fast talk him through. So yeah, like, and then like I'm looking here at the spell Heroism, which is a buff spell, level 1, immunity to, so it even buffs. So like, yeah, enchantment is such a nice, powerful, such a good school of magic. But especially these next two, because my brother would put this one at number 1, and maybe on certain days I'd agree with him, but I think that this top one is so powerful of a school of magic. It just, I think, has some of the strongest spells in it. But number 2, and very, very close second, is Conjuration. There's a number of Conjuration spells that can hold their own with Evocation when it comes to damage. But Conjuration has a number of effective powers. For a while, Conjuration was your healing spells, but one of the big things Conjuration does that makes it so powerful is Summon Monster. And now why is that powerful? Oh, and when you get into some decent levels, Summon Monster lets you summon monsters who have access to spells from other schools. You can start getting the ability to summon things like pixies and leprechauns that can do enchantment and illusion stuff for you. Like with the proper summon monster, you can almost do any other school of magic fairly well. Like Conjuration and conjuring, like Iron Walls, incredibly useful. But yeah, like there's and then of course, summoning monsters in a fight grants you action advantage, which anyone who's played these kind of games long enough will tell you that having extra actions in a turn is so useful. It's so great. But yeah, like, it just the teleportation spells let you travel to here and there. Incredibly helpful if you're getting somewhere. Spells like Dimension Door are fantastic for stepping, for quick getaways, things like that. Yeah. However, I will say this. I think that this is the most powerful, and if you're doing your math, you know what it is. There is so much power in the School of Magic that I think that this is number 1. And like I said, Conjuration, I think on the right day I could see it. Now, as kind of a counterpoint, it's Transmutation. Bring. Transmutation is so fucking powerful when it comes to schools of magic. The Transmuter in a lot of these games, in Pathfinder, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, kind of suck, and it's almost like a way to try to mitigate it. But like, if we're being honest, I'm hearing cats. Anyway, Transmuters are almost, but like, if you're gonna play a Diviner, because Diviners have really good class abilities, and then just fill your roster out with Transmutation spells. Transmutation gives you some of the best level 2 spells in the game. Bull Strength, Cat's Grace, Bear's Endurance, what is it? I think Fox's Cutting, Eagle's Splendor, Owl's Wisdom. Fantastic spells. Just give your player straight +2 on whatever stat roll they are, which includes skill rolls, attack rolls, saving throws, all of this stuff. are found in Transmutation. Transmutation gives you haste, which, once again, action advantage power, increase your AC, things like that. Transmutation gives you Polymorph. You know, that spell that that we have a cat in heat, sorry. You know, that spell that druids use to do all the cool shit druids can use, you know, polymorph effectively like wild shape. It gives you alter self, which functions a lot like the illusion spell, you know, lets you change the way you look, except it's not an illusion, you just look different. And I don't, man, did they take it out of, I wonder if they took it out of 5th edition. They probably put it back in if they did. But in older editions, it gave you one of the most powerful spells in the game. One of the other things it does, it grants you fight ending spells, like I said about enchantment with Hold Person. You get spells like Flesh to Stone, which are fight ending spells. Ah, they did remove it. Okay. I'm sure there's some version of it in here that I'm not sure about. But they gave you the spell Baleful Polymorph. The spell that lets you turn targets into sheep. Yeah, you can just say, okay, that target, it's now just a frog forever and ever and ever. And it's done. That's it. Fight's over. You win. You know, even if they only last a couple turns, not that fucking hard to kill a frog in one turn. Like, insanity. But it also gets you the ability to turn yourself into shit like dragons and monsters and buffs and haste. And it's just, Transmutation is such a powerful and useful and versatile school that it is my choice for the #1 school in all of Dungeons and Dragons. And its clones, like Hackmaster and Pathfinder. But I would love to hear what you guys think. What are your favorite schools? What are your least favorite schools? Where do you think I'm wrong? What is the necromancy spell that makes it so that it is on par with Transmutation? What is the enchantment spell, the illusion spell that would make it overcome Transmutation and Conjuration as the most powerful spells? I'd love to hear where you think I'm wrong, or even where you think that I'm overrating certain spells. But anyway, I'm gonna go step on that cat's head. I'm not actually, that's a joke. That's a joke. I'm not gonna hurt the fucking cats. Trust me, if I had it in me to hurt an animal, I wouldn't have 40 fucking animals in this house. But yeah, anyway, I will talk to you guys next time, and maybe next time it'll be another short video, but I wouldn't plan on it. Bye.